What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Loud Bostonian. Today I'll be doing my review of Alita Battle Angel. Alita Battle Angel is a film directed by Robert Rodriguez, executive produced by James Cameron. This film is notoriously known as the Lost James Cameron Project. James Cameron, years ago, acquired the rights to do this film and never got around to making it. So Robert Rodriguez reached out to him and said, "Hey, James, do you care if I make this film?" And James Cameron, being the nice guy he is, said, "You know what, Robert, that is a great idea. You make this movie, and I will executive produce it." Together they collaborated, and you get the movie that stands before you today. This film is a sci-fi epic set in a post-apocalyptic future 600 years past where humanity is at current. At least I think it was 600 years. The setting of this film is a floating city called Solemn, which resides over a shitty city called Iron City. Now, the whole world that is set up here is that it is these are the last two cities on Earth. Or I guess that's not true. I guess they said it's the last of the floating cities. I'm not sure if other cities still exist somewhere, but all you get to see in this movie are these two cities. And you don't even really get to see the floating city. You only really live in the Iron City. So the overall hierarchy here is people in Iron City continually work to provide, supplies to the floating city. And basically they're trying to get in good favor and enough credit and stuff like that that they can eventually move up to the floating city. But for those who live down in the city, the Iron City, they pretty much have to deal with crime, disease, famine, that sort of shit. So it's really not a great place to live. This city is patrolled by these fucking robot people called Hunter Warriors. Hunter Warriors is the shittiest name for any kind of police squad I've ever heard in my life. I'm sure it's from the source material, but there's always, every once in a while, there's some stuff in source material that you just don't need to put in movies, you guys, and that is one of them. So the overall plot of the movie is that these Hunter Warriors patrol the city looking for, criminals and stuff like that, and they basically have carte blanche to kill whoever they want as long as they're on the criminal list. The plot picks up with a doctor. He's a doctor. He's kind of a scientist who's played by Christoph Waltz, called Dr. Ito. While salvaging through a junkyard of all the materials that have fallen from Solemn, the floating city, he discovers a pretty destroyed android. He brings it back to his house. He finds out that the brain is entirely intact and that its heart is powered by this crazy technology that he has never seen in his lifetime. So, right away, he rebuilds this character, and this is the main character, Alita. So when he puts her back together, she wakes up and has no knowledge of her past whatsoever. So that is a really great jump-off point for this movie, because everything about the world that she lives in, we learn as she learns it. So it's really cool. So right off the bat, you pretty much, in her first trek out into the real world, she discovers that she has some kind of drive in her to protect people. She sees a dog in danger, she jumps to it, saves it in a fighting stance, gets in and out really quick. She's got some crazy tech inside her, and everybody who comes into contact with her realizes it. The plot of the movie is that this main villain, who you never see on screen until the very end of the movie, who lives up in the floating city, is controlling a bunch of underlings down in the Iron City, realizes that this character, Alita, is alive and that he wants that tech. So he's sending all these bounty hunters after her. It's really cool, and the CGI and the fight scenes are unbelievable. Where the movie goes off the rails for me is that it relies too heavily on the fact that it wants a sequel. So a lot of loose ends are left unanswered, and I can't stand that shit. If you're gonna make a movie, make the movie. If you want to have a post-credit scene linking to a sequel, that's cool. But there's so many loose ends in this movie that are just unanswered, and so many things that just are predicated on the fact that you're gonna learn about it in the next few films. Now, not every movie gets a sequel. This movie is tracking very low. It is a very expensive film to make. It is very unlikely that it's going to get a sequel. So the fact that they relied so heavily on this really pisses me off, because as much as I enjoyed the film, I would have enjoyed it a whole lot more if it was a cohesive one point, end the movie, and then if it gets another one, great, you can pick it up right there. They didn't do that. They didn't do that at all. There are so many things that are unanswered, and so many things. Honestly, this film, where it really, really goes off the edge for me is and I'm not going to get into spoilers, but there's a point where a character has what would be the end of his arc for the film, and it continues into like 3 or 4 more scenes, and I'm like, you didn't need that character to come back in this movie at all. Why do we have to keep seeing him show up? And it's just really uneventful the way that character's story ends in this film. And I don't understand why they did that. It's a very odd director choice, or story choice, I suppose. And I don't know anything about this source material whatsoever. I know that it's a manga or graphic novel or something like that. I believe it's a manga. I've never read it, so I have nothing to gauge any of these characters on, or nothing to gauge whether or not that's part of the source material on. It very well could be, but for me, it doesn't work in the film. And had they left that out, it would have been much better. But I will say this. The action in this movie is unbelievable. Such cool fight scenes. The graphics in this movie are so good. I mean, James Cameron doesn't attach his name to something with shitty graphics other than Terminator Genesis, which I don't know if he even had his name attached to, but yeah, so the graphics are really cool, and the actual setting's really good. I mean, it's the best Mega Man movie we're ever going to get. So if you like Mega Man, you'll probably like this movie, because there's a lot of cool shit in there. You've seen it in the trailers. There's a thing called Motorball in the movie that seems to play a big part in the story. You didn't need it. I don't understand the point of it. I mean, I get the point of it in the movie, but I can't imagine that's in the source material. It seems like there's this whole, gladiatorial sport of watching these characters run through this racetrack, which seems to have no goal. I mean, I literally, there's a net and a ball, and I don't know. It was the weirdest sport I've ever seen, and it didn't need to be in the movie. But again, it's all for action spectacle, and it looked kind of cool when they were playing, but the overall point of it was lost on me. So, but there's some good acting in this movie too. I don't want to say that all there was visuals and fighting, because the acting's pretty good. The girl that plays Alita does a really good job. She's a completely CGI character, but you believe she's there. That's attributed to the CGI, but she gives a hell of a performance, and you can really feel that Alita is so human, even though she's an android or a cyborg or whatever they called her. And she's so human, and so much more human than a lot of the human characters in their performances. So, and that might be a director's choice right there, because you might want her to seem more human than these, sad sacks that have been living in this shitty world for so long. She comes in with a clean slate, so obviously she's all awe and wonder, and it was a really good choice. And I really liked her. I really liked Christoph Waltz. He's good in everything. Marashaka Ali, or however you pronounce that, I probably just butchered that name. Forgettable villain, honestly, very forgettable. Jennifer Connelly, pretty much a forgettable actress in this movie too. She got one turn at the end that you actually finally like her character, and it's pretty good. The rest of the actors are probably pretty terrible. I mean, most of them are just android characters brought in for fighting, so it's pretty cool to see them come and go. But the boyfriend character, Hugo, he's all right. Not the best character in the movie, but yeah, I'd say that this movie overall was good, not great. Had they capped it as a one movie without so much build-up for movies that are not going to come down the line, it would have been better. And I think if they look back on this movie, they're going to realize that's where they made a big mistake. But again, good, not great. If you like action, you want to see it, go see it. If you like post-apocalyptic, futuristic kind of robot movies, go see it. It's definitely great for that. It's a great popcorn flick, great kickoff to the year as far as action goes. But it suffers in the long run, in my opinion. It suffers because it's not going to get that sequel. I don't think it's going to. If it gets a sequel, I would be shocked. I don't know what this movie's going to make overseas. I don't know if James Cameron's name carries in China or any of these places where movies seem to be popping bigger. But it could definitely, in a Chinese market, since I believe it's a manga, could really translate well to that fan base over there. So if it makes enough money to get a sequel, I hope it does. I hope it does get a sequel, because I like this movie enough to want to see a sequel, but I don't think they should have put all their eggs in that basket. I think they should have made a concise one-off story. There's a definite point in this movie where they could have ended it, and they should have ended it. And then they continue into 10, 15 more minutes of unnecessary footage that just kind of sucks. And the movie would have been much better off ending where they did and picking up with a sequel and having, some arcs left for the sequel. Now, my overall score for this movie, where am I going to give it? Like I said, it's good, not great. I would say it's probably 6 out of 10 stars for me. I want to know what you guys think about this film. This movie, across the board, has got great action. Across the board, has got great visuals. And if that's enough to get you into theaters to see it, then good for you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next week.